Really a absolute pleasure to be able to be here and connect with you all. Before I get going, I'll do the shameless plug thing, just talk about why am I and our company V1 positioned to talk about this subject. Our company's been around for about 10 years. We're trusted by over 25,000 companies worldwide. We have 15 different integrations. So we're not just dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem, but it's definitely a core part of our business. And as a result of us being in business for 10 years, we've raised about $80 million. And why I share that is not like braggy, it's more to say a backup and data company, data and backup company that we are. Having that type of capital behind us means we're here to stay, we're well funded, we have the right teams in place, the technology to support you. And we have enterprise-ready sales partnerships teams, 7-day support, and investments in our trust, security, compliance, and all of that good stuff, just so that you know and expect that those are the things you need as an enterprise. So that's why we can have a bit of a point of view on this conversation. The main point here is, from our vantage point, what we're seeing in the market is that customers need a data resiliency strategy in the cloud. And many folks just don't know it yet. There was a promise of the cloud. There was also a very well-worn path in the on-prem days. Backup and resiliency practices were it was a well-worn path, right? Everybody kind of knew what to do. The IT closet was really a well-defined space. In the cloud, it's not really being a really smooth shift. Some of the core resiliency and governance practices and technologies are late to the game, but people are still adopting cloud. And so this is a big issue because 60% of companies and operators are claiming they're experiencing data loss in a year, either big or small. We've seen examples of companies in the Fortune 15 who have come to us and said, we've lost data for 3 weeks and we're scrambling to get it back and then never getting it all back, but get some of it back, some massive amount of lost productivity. And a good deal of those folks have said that they mistakenly believed and understood the shared responsibility model that they had with their cloud provider. So it's an important subject, and really it's becoming more table stakes in how we evaluate the tech stacks that we incorporate into our business. And again, it's not just us weighing in on the conversation. Actually, last year, Gartner put out a pretty detailed report on this. And they're showing that, at current, roughly 15% of enterprises are prioritizing their data resiliency and backup strategies in their business. And over the next few years here, they expect that to grow to 75%. So where our business was in the sort of mode of educating and awareness in the market and addressing needs post negative event, like, oh shoot, my house is on fire, I need to now figure out my insurance policy, people are coming at it very proactively, which is a fantastic place for us to be in as a business. And we're really excited to have this conversation. So this is the model that maybe some of you are familiar with. It's the shared responsibility model, and that as we migrate more and more of our workloads into the cloud and our critical business data, and start adopting things like AI, the quality of our data and its ongoing fidelity is increasing at risk. So you can see things like very likely human errors, data migration errors, third-party app errors. That's you installing a third-party app, and the barrier to entry to build an app in a marketplace is often quite well structured, but the maintenance of that application after it's first put into the marketplace isn't always as well defined. And the reality is, as software developers, we ship bugs. Like, it happens. The best coders will ship a bug. And you ship a bug into the marketplace, and it can have detrimental effects on your data set. We've seen data sets get overwritten, corrupted, modified, and that can really be hard to unwind. The incorporation of agents into our workspace, automation workflows, I was talking to Dan earlier, and with great power comes great responsibility. A little Spider-Man reference. The power of agentic AI can have those negative benefits if we start changing how tickets are being modified, deployed in our instances. So something to look at as we go forward. I would also say that the quality of your data is also going to drive the quality of your AI output. So having a way to look at your data today and say, you know what, that data is not actually what it should be. We need to rewind that to 2 weeks ago before this issue happened so that the output of our AI agents is at the quality we want. This is becoming more of an operational requirement as we think about incorporating AI into our business. The next practice that many of you may be familiar from the on-prem days is the 3-2-1 best practice, right? This is old stuff with a bit of a modern twist. We know that we need to keep multiple copies of our data in case something gets corrupted, have failovers and redundancy models. We know that they need to be in 2 locations. Back in the day, you had an IT closet in Office A and an IT closet in Office B in case there's a fire. And that's where the remote component came. In the cloud, it's highly recommended that these 2 locations in the cloud are, yes, within the platform that you're driving, but also in one that is not your SaaS provider. And this is because of a single point of failure. In the event that something happens that is entirely out of the control of Atlassian or any other platform that you're using, say somebody takes your account hostage entirely and is holding you ransom for that data. That is a serious thing that you need to deal with immediately. And having a contingency model where you can still access your data through a back door, like Rewind, but any other backup sort of system that has a separate entry point, is core to your business continuity strategy. So you know that you've got this ransomware situation happening, get your lawyers on that, but know and trust that your data is safe and recoverable from a remote location. So the analogy there is everybody who owns a car has a spare set of keys, and you don't keep your spare keys in your glove box, right? So data risks are increasing in the age of AI. It's accidental, it's not on purpose, but agents can delete and overwrite critical data. And agents that are performing bulk updates and making decisions, they can do those same decisions and deletions at scale. It's something to really look at. There's malicious components to it as well. AI-driven authentication and access risks, so brute forcing through platforms is definitely a real risk in AI. And compromised agents can be used to modify or extract that data from your platform. So being able to know that you have that backup in case something like that happens is a good long-term strategy for the continuity of the business. And things are autonomous. So we build these, I've already kind of keyed into this, but workflows gone wrong are a real risk to the business as well. And with the proliferation of AI, nobody in any of these types of events gets away without saying AI. I was on with an AWS compliance guy today, and he said, if I don't say AI every day, I probably will get fired. So he said AI in our meeting, so he's still got a job. But the increased proliferation and adoption of AI in our businesses, both in our businesses, but also in the platforms that we're leveraging. Rovo is a really powerful tool for everyone. They made some great announcements making it more affordable this year at Teams. It's something that is going to be more of a in your disaster recovery and resiliency strategy, part of that decision-making formula. So here's an actual example that we got from a customer that's leveraging some AI. Oh my God, the automation needs all tickets to deploy. Even those closed years ago. What a disaster. Fortunately, I had a backup. Well, actually, I did not. With some JQL magic code, I was able to move all tickets back to done. How's your experience of Atlassian Intelligence? Not to like throw shade on Atlassian. This is just a reality of us learning and configuring such a powerful tool. We're learning the edge cases, and just have a thought about that as you go into this journey, which I'm pretty sure everybody here is talking or thinking about incorporating it into your day-to-day. But beyond this, you start thinking about the maturity level of SaaS products. Even still, being surprised at how many large institutions have been hesitant to move into full cloud adoption because of the maturity level of the security compliance posture that is available within those ecosystems. This is becoming an evolving, and I would say the low watermark of regulation is starting to increase in the SaaS cloud environment. So you look at standards like SOC or ISO, and your business might be inclined to adopt those standards because these standards help you signify to the market that you're a trusted player, that your business is one that should be operating within a regulated industry, healthcare or financial institutions or any of those. You may need to adopt these, or you might be withheld to them. And as a result, the level of you should do this is changing into you must do this. And so when you look at ISO, they're more in the you must do this category. Same with DORA and NIS2 in Europe. But they have very explicit call-outs. And what I'll say is I chat GPT'd this and then I summarized it into some buckets for you all. It's a really lengthy read if you want to take that on. But the real takeaway here is that backup policies and management structures should be in place around your data resiliency, procedures, and who's responsible. InfoSec and business continuity plans, RTO and RPO. So these are all things that are emerging as requirements within your business. That's maybe the most embarrassing thing I've done in the presentation. We're going to do a quick demo. Thank you all for hearing a little bit about the backup market and what's evolving. And we'll kind of keep this one nice and brief for you. Thank you. Hopefully you can get that on video.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw a few people taking pictures of the slideshow. I don't know, we didn't talk about this, but if it's valuable to people, come talk to us later. We can probably send it to people. I don't think there's a problem with that. So if there was something valuable on there, pictures are great, but we can probably just send you the entire slideshow.
We can upload it to the event page afterwards if you like that.
Even better. Awesome. So that makes it easier. Well, great. Yeah, so I'll try to keep this brief. Eli kind of sets the stage of, thinking about how to recover from things. I'll take 5 minutes to show you what that looks like using a third-party vendor. The first thing I'll call out, this is the Rewind app. So this is the company that the 3 of us work at. We provide backups and recovery for about 15 different cloud apps that don't necessarily have backups built in natively. The first thing you'll notice is that we are not in the Atlassian world. Okay, we're at app.rewind.com. That's why I highlighted the URL. This is very intentional. Our philosophy around backups and recovery is that we should not rely on the platform to have access to the backups. If ever anything got happened from like ransomware, if you got locked out, if the account had any sort of downtime, at that point, if you're relying on a single source and that goes down, then the backups are no longer accessible. So Rewind has built this platform, and on top of that, the big theme you'll hear us talk about if we kind of have conversations online is centralization. You can see on the left-hand side, today's talk obviously is around the Atlassian ecosystem, but we do a lot more than that. We want you to think of SaaS as a whole, not just particular apps. We can kind of group those apps together and provide an all-in-one backup when it comes to the cloud. But I'm going to keep today's conversation around Jira specifically. So clicking into any one of these apps that I have installed, you can actually install Rewind on a per instance basis. So if you have Sandbox, Production, if your company rolls up a lot of different acquisitions, maybe that includes 3 different Jira instances, those can all be installed and grouped together and then actually backed up in different geographies. So because we have a lot of European customers, Atlassian is headquartered in the continent of Australia, a lot of those companies have very strict requirements around where the data can reside. So for that reason, we let you decide where the backups are being stored. Us being a Canadian company, most people being Canadian here, we do have a Canadian data residency as well. So if your company's in the fintech, government, whatever it may be, you can choose to have your data reside in Canada. and we guarantee it won't leave the borders of the Canadian country. In terms of how the backups are working, it's very hands-off approach. There's nothing that you have to do to script, click a button, anything like that. As soon as you install Rewind, first backup runs, and then afterwards it's incremental backup. So anything that gets updated or created in the last 24 hours automatically gets captured. You can see that in the big list here. You get a breakdown of all those different actions that happen, backups and restores. You can see how many items were backed up, how many items were restored, and conveniently, if there's any errors, those get surfaced here. You can click into them, find out what went wrong. For the most part, there's a lot of zeros. I want to show you what this would look like, so it's a bit of a contrived example, but in case anything were to go wrong, you get notified, you come into the platform, you can understand what's going on with the backups and the restores. I'll move on to this screen, which kind of gives you a sense of what we back up. So I'll open up these filters to kind of show you our approach to backups is that, you know, being an admin, your focus is kind of on the configuration side, right? Workflows, project roles, permission schemes, automations. Your users are typically in projects and issues, but both of those have to exist at the same time in a proper state. If a workflow breaks, then the project doesn't work the same. Swim lanes start to disappear, and then statuses start to get removed. So we need to make sure that all of those are backed up in conjunction and get restored together. So we understand the sort of hierarchy of Jira. We back them up at an individual level, but that also means we get to restore them at a granular level. So you can pick any one of these items and start a restore without anything else being affected. And probably one of the easiest use cases to imagine is if I were to jump into my Jira board here, and I were to pick any one of these issues. And I'll use a pretty brief one here. We can get as granular as issues, workflows, screens, things like that. If I were to delete this issue, for whatever reason, this is a very contrived example, obviously, but it could be accidental, it could be malicious. How fast can I recover that? It's just a matter of filtering in on the issues. You can search on a few things, the issue key, the summary, the description. I know that it has something to do with login verification, so I'll start typing that. And I can see it's the first thing that shows up. I'll click into that particular issue here and show you this drop-down menu. This will give you a sense of how Rewind's storing the information from a backend perspective. There we go. Anytime this issue is updated, a version was created. So now I get to see what the transformations were of this particular issue all the way back a full year. So I get to see, you know, at what point did this go wrong? I can click into any one of these versions and see at a high level what it looks like, or I can deep dive into the source code, which actually shows me the JSON content of it, and all the changes are highlighted in green. So again, if you're looking for a custom field that's not there, any sort of comment, issue, attachment, things like that, the source code has no secret, so all the information resides here. I would say 99% of our customers' use case is going to be restoring back to the most recent version, which in this case is the May 7th, yesterday. That kind of backs to the undo button. Give me this issue in its most recent iteration, so that's what we'll do here. I'll scroll down, click restore. I get a quick dialog, are you sure? I'm going to say yes, and that restore is initiated. So then behind the scenes, we're going to go collect all the information of that issue, comments, attachments, descriptions, the formatting, and place it back into the backlog, into the proper state from which it was deleted. So I'll give that a few seconds to run, but really in a few minutes, if I were to refresh this might be ambitious. Again, you can see the issue shows up back in the status. I'll give it a few seconds because we kind of have to do things in different iterations, but I might just show you just for the sake of the speed of today. The content is exactly the same. So you get the exact payload, any custom fields, again, comments, attachments. We want to make sure that it's a one-to-one restore from when it was just deleted. That's a bit of a blitz. I know that was a lot of talking by me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those kind of offline or behind the scenes. But this gives you an idea of, you know, things that can go wrong. It's not really the news line, the headlines in the news, ransomware, this and that. Day-to-day mistakes happen too, and most people never tell you about it because they're too embarrassed. But if they knew there was a quick way to get it back, things might get, you know, resolved a lot quicker. So I'll end that here. Any questions we're happy to answer either now. I don't know if you want to do like Q&A or something after.
We can got any questions then.
Cool.
Hey, good to meet you all. My name is Matt C. I'm based in Vancouver, Canada, of course. I work for Atlassian. I'm a principal product manager. Been with the company for over 7 years. I've worked in so many different teams now. Started in Jira. moved to our cloud platform. So I worked on things like Sandbox, Release Tracks. A couple of my peers worked on our native backup in the store. Not quite as extensive as what you folks offer, which is awesome to see. But yeah, I've been with Atlassian for quite some time. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen the company go from 2,000 to 15,000 employees. So quite a journey so far. But here to talk to you today about Guard Premium. Just show of hands, do you folks know what Guard is? Oh, okay, all right. For those of you who don't know, Guard is a rebrand of what we used to call Atlassian Access. So think of it as a security add-on and really designed for the Atlassian suite. So long history of like what Access is, but basically when we started going serious about the cloud, we saw a need for customers to have things like single sign-on, SAML authentication, all the things that you would need to secure your users in the goal of securing your data, right? And so we talked a lot about data resiliency and why that's important, especially in the cloud. With Guard Premium, we launched this back in October of last year, announced it at Team in Barcelona. And really, you can think of Guard Premium as taking that another level. So nowadays, when you think about some of the threats that are happening and the things that you could be suspect to in the cloud, things like data loss prevention and threat detection become increasingly important, right? Don't have to talk about like why agentic AI things make that even more important, but yeah, that's why we launched Guard Premium. Was really we saw this need to provide DLP and threat detection over our ecosystem. So I'll just go over a couple of like the key challenges, the things that we're trying to solve with this product, and then get right into like how you can get the most out of it. So it is available today. You can get a trial of it, 30 days, and yeah. So obviously some stats to throw at you. So according to PwC, this is a 2024 study that they did in the Global Digital Trust and Insights. Cloud security was the #1 cyber risk concern for nearly half of the businesses and tech executives at the largest global companies. And really, this isn't changing, right? This is changing. It's not going down, right? It's increasing, if anything. And what you can see, and as you can easily see why, because attacks have proliferated across every industry and every company size globally, averaging 1,248 per week. Among the most prevalent types of incidents are those that involve data leaks and data breaches. Now, these attacks can typically stem from a bunch of things, right? Compromised credentials, resulting from phishing attacks, weak passwords, poor corporate authentication policies. All this contributes to the leading, contributor to the leading cause of data breaches. Now, when you think about incidents, it's not just about like bad actors and hackers getting into your system and stealing your data. It could be because of accidents, right? It could be your employees just didn't know, hey, that's the company policy. We shouldn't be creating public links for that stuff. Or hey, we shouldn't turn on anonymous access and have people on the internet view these Confluence pages or these Jira issues. So there's a lot of different reasons why leaks and breaches can happen, and it's not just what you see in the movies. It's not somebody trying to hack into your system necessarily. Now, when it comes to Atlassian, why that's important, when we see what we see in our data is that we know that our customers' teams' mission critical work is unfolding in the cloud, right? We see this in just how quickly, how fast paced the digital world is. Like data is rapidly created, shared, collected. The stats aren't showing here, but on a daily basis, we see more than 1 million Jira work items issued getting created, right? You see more than 4.5 million Confluence pages created every month. And so all this is really highlighting is that there's just so much data in the cloud and so much collaboration that you need tools to secure that, more than just, hey, making sure people log in with the right credentials. So when it comes to the challenges that Guard Premium sets out to solve, the first one is really thinking about how you protect your data against unauthorized access or breaches, right? A lot of enterprise organizations face several challenges with hosting data in the cloud. And one of the main ones is when you think about sensitive information being stored, how are you protecting that? It's more than just access controls. It's having things like security policies that protect and prevent people from sharing it on with people who they shouldn't be, as well as exporting it or downloading it when they shouldn't be, etc. The second challenge is really about detection. So it's one thing to protect your data with all the policies, all the right login credentials, etc. It's another to actually know what's happening, right? And so this is really about observability and being able to detect when there's suspicious activity happening in the cloud. And I'll show you what that means with our product. We allow you to detect things like configuration changes, and we'll send you alerts, but also more sophisticated things like, hey, if so-and-so employee is viewing a certain number of Confluence pages in a short time period, or downloading a bunch of Confluence pages in a short time period, that seems suspicious, right? That could be an anomalous activity, and that might be something you want to actually take action on. The third thing is, it does you no good if we just give you the alerts and we tell you, hey, this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening. When we built Guard Premium, we were really designing it for security teams. So if you think about a security team or a SOC analyst, they're drowning in alerts, right? They're drowning in the workflow that they have. You can say the same for administrators, right? Even those of you who may not be security trained or have worked in the day of the life of a cybersecurity engineer, you're still drowning in work. And so it doesn't do you any good if we just say, this is happening, this is happening. You need a way to actually respond to that. And so we build a really prescriptive and opinionated way to remediate any alerts that may come up. So what I just talked about is really all about Guard Premium. I think this is just a quick summary between the two if you're not familiar. There's a lot more on the website that you can get, but you can really think about Guard Premium as these three things of protecting your data with what we call classifications and policies, detecting when it's either being misused or used inappropriately, and then allowing you to intelligently respond to that before they become incident. So just some key things to get started with Guard. Again, the three things that we offer with Guard Premium is to, the first thing is prevent oversharing. So as you know, Atlassian's products operate in this open by default model, right? Nothing is locked down. It's very different than a lot of other enterprise software where, you can't just share like a Google Doc with everybody just by default. You got to like configure that so that it works that way. Our products don't work that way. We believe in this open concept and being able to collaborate openly. So data security policies allows you to kind of flip that and say, hey, we don't want certain data to actually be accessible by everybody. So we do that through policies. We also stop sensitive data from being leaked. So this is what we mean by like getting alerts whenever your users are potentially searching for secrets or credentials or anything that may be in Jira and Confluence. And then last but not least is helping you save time and also keeping your data compliant. A lot of financial institutions, banks, healthcare companies have really strict regulations, right? Of course, PCI, ISO, SOC 2, like HIPAA, GDPR, all those things basically mean that you as a company may not actually be allowed to store things like social security numbers in a Jira ticket or on the Confluence page. So we provide the tooling to know, for you to know when that's there and to actually take an action. So with the demo, let's see if I can actually get this to work. Video format. Is that too small? That feels too small. All right, so it's a little blurry. I think it's prospering, but what you can see here, the first step is really about protecting your data. So in the Atlassian administration, as an org admin, you can go to security and under data classifications. This is the first step, is creating a different, basically think of this as sensitivity labels, right? So you can create up to 10 different classifications, up to you how you want to define that. Typically what we see is customers will have some sort of standard at their company, right? So here what you're seeing is just an example of what it looks like to create one. I'll jump ahead. Oh, should I have done that? Might even be easier if I just do a live demo. Let's try that again.
So when you create a classification level, there's a couple different things to pay attention to. When you create them, they are in what we call like a draft state. You do have to publish them, and the moment it becomes published, you can see that you can apply it to things like confluence pages. At the top right, you can see that this is classified as highly restricted. We just created a test classification. So your users, your administrators can go and apply these on a per object basis. Now you're probably wondering, okay, cool, these are just labels. What do they actually do? Besides just telling users and employees that, hey, this data is considered classified. The power comes in when you apply what we call a data security policy. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I tried to put a Loom video together instead, but Loom does not work well with Google. So that's why. So what you're seeing here is what we call our security policies. Pretty straightforward. There's two concepts you need to know: coverage and rules. Coverage is essentially like your scope. Where are you actually going to enforce the policy? With Guard Premium, you get the ability to select it, put it at a classification level. So what you're seeing on the screen now is Adam here is creating a policy that says block any data from being exported if it's classified. And so what you can see in the right-hand menu is that the export option is no longer there. So that's just one example of what a policy could do. There's other types of rules that we offer, as well as different scopes. So if you wanted to go and select it, create a policy based on a site, you can do that as well, and also based on spaces or projects. So there's a lot of granularity that you can do, you can have when it comes to policies. Now, it's important to note that this applies across the entire organization, right? So you have multiple instances. This is really powerful if you set something like all your confidential data across every instance is affected by this policy. We do have another type of rule called app access. And what this is going to do is depending on the apps that you may have installed, it actually restricts those apps from having access to any confidential data. So if you had a policy, policy within the company that nothing confidential should be readable by marketplace apps or any other things, you can actually affect or basically create an app access policy to block that. This is just showing you these different types of apps that we have. And yeah, once you, I guess the other concept to know is you have to activate the policy before it actually goes in effect. So once it does, it's pretty much up and running. This third example is going to show you what it looks like to do it at the entire site level. So again, a lot of flexibility in how you create a policy, whether it's at the classification level, the container level, projects or spaces, or at the entire site level. The rules that we support today are things like anonymous access, data export, as well as public links. You'll notice that the common pattern of all those is just who has access to the data, right? Who is able to see that and interact with it. Okay, so the second thing that we do is what we call detection. So in this example, I'm going to walk you through what that looks like in what we call guard detect. You're gonna have to imagine. So in with Guard Premium, you get access to a separate interface called Guard Detect. It's at detect.atlassian.com. And what you'll see here on the screen is a different a set of detections. And so we have everything from like user activity detections. Think of this as when your users are doing this or doing that, or doing a multiple number of things over a short period of time. And so we send what's called an alert. Now that alert is viewable in both the UI, but also we have integrations and webhooks that you can actually connect to Slack, to Teams, to Splunk. Again, this is really built with for a security team. So if you think about like a SOC analyst or Day in, day out, they're probably operating out of what they call SIEM or SIM, Security Incident Event Management tool, or Splunk. And so we have the ability to actually like stream this data. Now, what you're seeing on the screen here is kind of hard to see is a different type of detection we call content scanning. So this is like about the sensitive data, right? So if you're a bank, you probably care about credit cards, PII, social security numbers, tax file numbers, those types of things. You have the ability to create what we call a custom detection. And that's based on either terms and phrases. So in this case, you could write like merger, secret project names, whatever it be. And then you also have the ability to create detections based on a regular expression. So very common, like if you are familiar with regex, you can find all sorts of things depending on how familiar you are with that. So the reason we have these custom detections is when we were building this out, we spoke to a lot of different customers in various industries. A bank in this geo is very different than a bank in this geo, and so they have different needs when it comes to what types of content they want to find. And so having the ability to create custom detections gives you that flexibility to really tailor what it is that you want to look for in your instances. This is just building regex, so we're not going to go too deep into that. I'm going to show you what a notebook looks like. Okay, that is cool. Okay. So there's a better view of it. So when you go to guard detect, you get what we call our alert dashboard. And so here you can see that we have a detection that looks for credit cards. And this is what a detection, what an alert looks like when a credit card is found. So in this example, Jordan published a Confluence page that actually had a credit card on it. And in here, we show you the classification of that page because we've done the classification work. We give you steps to investigate and steps to remediate that. And then, of course, there's information on the right side that shows you a bit more about who did that thing. And so this is important, again, in the eyes of like a security team, because now you can investigate whether or not this is considered to be malicious or suspicious. In this example, you're seeing like a snapshot or a preview of that page. Of course, it's dummy data, but you can see that 411111 was the credit card. And the thing that's really cool about this now, we shipped recently, is the ability to redact that. So now you can go and remove it. And this isn't just like front-end JavaScript hackery where it's just hiding it. It truly just wipes it from the database. And so it's quite powerful when you combine it with things like automation, because then you can start to set up workflows where you go, hey, when a credit card is found, do this action. And those actions could be notify the user, it could be restrict the page. Basically, think of anything, if you're familiar with the automation platform, you can really start to get quite granular with what you're doing when sensitive data is found. Now, I will caveat this by saying today we scan Confluence pages and Jira work items in real time. So what that means is it really depends on whether your users are creating. It happens when your users are creating and editing content. We don't do any retroactive or scanning at rest. That is something we're working on now. So there's no way for you to like spin this up and go, hey, look through all my Confluence data and tell me all instances where a credit card is found. That is a much harder problem. Hence why we don't have it yet. But yeah, today it's all in real time. So the moment you have this live on your instance, you'll start to get this these alerts. Any questions about this? That pretty much sums it up. So like I said, Guard Premium is available in GA. There's a 30-day trial if you want to play with it. We do also, for those of you who may still be on-prem and have DC, we have a DC integration as well. So you can actually get a lot of the same functionality and sync it between your DC and your cloud instances. And then there's way more detail in our online guide. So again, if you're looking for help setting up and configuring Guard, both standard and premium, suggest you checking out the guide on there. Any other questions?
If you're already a Atlassian Guard standard customer, can you still get the premium trial?
Yeah. Out of curiosity, I guess, how many of you folks
do have like infosec concerns, and I say that word all the time. Yeah, like I'm just curious, like, yeah, like is data security or information security like a concern or a challenge? You don't have it. Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting you say that because when we started out with this, like the intent was always for smaller, mid-sized companies who may not have like a dedicated SOC team and just kind of maturing. But then very quickly realized it was actually more enterprise customers who were like, oh, yeah, I'm considering a move to the cloud. Here are all the things that I am afraid of, especially when you're thinking of like moving off on-prem into cloud and you don't know, you basically relinquish a lot of control, right? So, yeah. Yeah, it's licensed by users, yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you everyone to join our today's event. Before we're doing the lucky draw, we ask you to kindly scan the QR code and give us some feedback. And if in the feedback page, there is a one asking for any interesting topic. If you guys have anything that interests you or your company, please let us know, and we will try our very best to find the speakers.
Okay.
So, fun time. Eileen.
Okay, trying this for the first time, so hopefully it works. But everybody's name has been entered into the wheel of prizes here. So the first prize is
A set of cards I bought from Team 25 with some very interesting things writing on it. Something like, well, if you are there enough, you can just show it in your meeting, like you're on mute. That is an okay one. This one, this meeting will self-destructed in 10 minutes. Or let's take 5 minutes break and now come back.
okay. So that will go to okay.
Okay, we have another set.
We've got a few more prizes, so we've got a second set. So yeah.
Sell the money thing.
Right. And
Hey,
Daniel.
congratulations.
Okay.
Next one, we have Atlassian community token.
Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. And the winner is. All right. And for the final prize, big money.
The Atlassian learning voucher up to $249 USD.
Yeah.
You can use it for a certificate.
Yeah. Take an exam or whatnot. Which are very useful if you have not done so. I find that they're good means of sort of proving out your knowledge and whatnot. So, all right, drum roll, please.
You gotta reach
Okay. You sure don't want to?
Cool.
Okay, awesome. Next, we're gonna need to do a group photo. And